Alright, how's it going, people? So, since I started making YouTube videos about a year ago, the number one thing that people have been asking me is to do a tutorial on how I use the Ableton Push, the Push 2, and I'm going to show you just a little bit of an introduction on how I use the Ableton Push 2 and some of the features of it and how to get comfortable using it. Okay, so there are a few main functions that you need to know of the Push. One being note mode right here, the other being session mode. And if you're familiar with Ableton at all, then you know as I switch between the two screens by hitting tab, then it switches between arrangement view and session view. And they're somewhat connected, but they're pretty independent of each other. So when I'm using the Push, I'm usually interacting with session view, which is this view with the clips. And so I'm gonna just quickly show you on the Push the different functions / screens that you interact with on it. So first would be session view, and as you can see, there's nothing on the screen right now, but that's because there's nothing in these clips right here. So if I record enable one of these tracks, it's going to show this red line here, meaning that those are all clips that are ready to record. So the same way that I can move around like this by clicking on the different record enable buttons, I can also hold record here and switch between my different tracks like this. These buttons right here are what select the different piano, guitar, bass, drum rack, piano, guitar, bass, drum rack. Okay, let's say I just wanted to make a quick little drum loop. Let's say I just wanted to do 4 on the floor here. So that is now a clip right here of 4 on the floor. I'm gonna raise the tempo by this being the tempo knob right here, so I can either tap the tempo that I want, a little faster there, or I could just dial in the tempo here. You can turn the metronome on and off with this as well. So if I unrecord enable this drum rack cell, then that clip that I've made right here is now right here. This is a representation of what's going on the session window. So I can either click here, or I can click right here. Cool. So to delete that, I can either click on the cell here and then hit delete on my keyboard, or I can hold delete here and delete like that. So again, to record enable any track, I just hold down record here and then I can do this, and that's the same as just clicking on the record enable button on Ableton. So that shows you the session window, which is basically just a representation of what's going on your session window in Ableton. Maybe we'll get back to that a little bit more. So the next function of the Push would be note mode, which, as you can see, I now have a drum rack enabled. So that means I have a drum rack in note. Notes mode is basically where you can play any of the MIDI tracks that you have going on in Ableton. So since I have a drum rack enabled here, I can play the drum rack. So I noticed that I was clipping a little bit, so the same way I could change the volume here on these faders, you can also go to the mix button right here, and that will pull up all of your faders here. It's more fun and more intuitive to change the levels of the volumes with a knob rather than with your mouse. Further on in note mode, so if I have a drum rack enabled, it shows the little drum rack in this bottom corner here, and I can also, let's say I have a kick selected here. This right here is going to be the grid of a clip that it just created. I don't know if that made sense, but I'm gonna keep going. So basically, if I want to do 4 on the floor, it would be like here, 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 and as you can see on the screen, as I select these, it is showing up on the cell that's created. So if I go back to session view, this clip that I just created is now right here. And if I go back to notes mode, I have my drum rack again. You can see it playing right here. So here's my snare. So I can either enter the snare by playing it. I just hit record enable here. And so you can see I didn't play perfectly in time, which you probably would want to have a more natural feel, but I can then hit quantize right here, and it will quantize any of the little clips in this cell. Okay, so I can undo that quantize, and then I can quantize, undo. And then if I want to change the grid for the quantize, if I hold quantize, it pulls up this chart right here where I can change the swing amount, I can change what I want it to quantize to, and the quantize amount and everything. So I'm going to just quantize that so it's back on the grid, and now, and as I change the tempo, it'll start going faster and slower. Cool, so that is notes mode for a drum rack, but if I pull up an instrument like a piano, it pulls up this whole grid right here. Here's your octaves right here. So if I go up, and I'll go down 2 octaves. So right now it's in a minor scale, but I'm gonna go. So what I just did is if you're in notes mode, then scale becomes an option. So I clicked on scale, and then it pulls up right here all of these different scales that it will like represent in lit up notes for you, so you know what notes are perfect to play. So right now I'm on E major scale, and I could just go like this and flip through the different scales, and all of the lit up notes are the right notes, with the blue notes being your tonic. Those are all the same note right there. So I just got an E major scale right here. Cool. Those are all your tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool. So I just played the major scale. Then if I go to a minor scale, it makes it very easy. All of the lit up notes are in key, and all of these notes are not in key. Makes it so easy. I'll show you 1 or 2 more functions, and then I'll just make a little jam and talk through how exactly I do it. Another function while you're in notes mode is this repeat button. So I just selected repeat, and then all of these different time divisions show up here. So I have 1/8 selected, so it's going to do 1/8 notes. And then if I do quarter notes, that's going to just play on the quarter note, which is the tempo of the song. So it'll basically be going with the metronome. As I change the tempo faster, the quarter note will go faster. Cool, so. And that's kind of cool if you think about like doing that with a snare drum. So I just clicked on drum rack. What I also could have done is just clicked on drum rack here. So if I select repeat here, then these all light up. Quarter notes. Now it's like a dance music thing. If you're using the Push live, then you're constantly going to be switching probably between notes mode to play things and session mode to trigger things. That's very important. Notes mode is where you play stuff, and then session mode is where you can like stop stuff and re-trigger things. Another important function is if you want to stop a cell from playing, because if it's glowing like that, that means it's playing. So you can either, if it's selected, hit stop clip, and then it will stop, or you can just click anywhere under it, which is like a much faster way. If you have a lot of clips playing and you want to stop a few of them, you can just like click anywhere below them that's not a recorded cell, and it will stop them, and I'll show that for you right now. So what I'm going to do is delete that, and then I'm going to actually make another drum cell for you, and then we can make a little jam. So I'm going to click drum rack, and when you're recording cells, you can either have it on fixed length, so it'll be more like a loop pedal. It will just create a loop for like a certain amount of bars, which you can determine by holding down fixed length and then choosing the length. 2 bars is what I have selected right now, but if you don't, if you can see that it's glowing, so that means it's on. And if I unclick this, then that means that it will just record forever, and that's cool if you just want to just like keep trying to hammer out the same part and get it perfect. But if you already know that you can play it, then just do fixed length and just nail it the first time and it will record, and then play over and over again. If I hit the first cell on the drum rack here, then that means that it's recording now, and you can tell that it's recording because this red circle is lit up. So if I click it, now it's not recording, but it's still playing, which is determined by this green triangle right here. Then now it's recording and playing. So what I can do is go back into notes mode, and I can either put the metronome on and then start trying to record something, or I could just select my kick and just draw them in here, and it will give me 4 on the floor. Right, then I'm gonna go select my snare, put that on the 2s and 4s, and then I'm gonna go to guitar, let's say. Click on guitar, record, enable it. So now all of these are select clips that I can record on. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit, or a lot actually. Cool, so I'm gonna start recording now. That's it. After 2 bars, it stopped the clip and just started playing it. So if I quantize it, it's kind of cool. It's like very on the grid, but it sounds pretty cool. So if I go over to piano now, I can record, enable it. So now I can record any piano parts that I want, and then I'm gonna press note mode, so now I can play piano. Cool. First, I'm actually going to record a bass line. So I'm going to, instead of recording enabling piano, I'm going to switch over to bass here. I have a bass selected. Cool. Alright, that was horrible, but let's keep going. So I can either go over to notes mode and then click on bass, and then start recording there, and then switch back to notes mode and play. Then you can also just hit record, and it will, as you can see, this is already selected on the screen, so it will just start recording there. It will just start recording. Alright, that was horrible, but so I can go in and fix it because that was literally the worst bass line of all time. But just for the tutorial's sake, we're going to keep going. So now we'll can switch between. This is a whole nother world here of just like where you can do the mixing faders, you can do the device parameters, like if you have any like reverbs, delays, compressor stuff, you can put a device, and then it will pull up all of your things that are going on down here, which is maybe for another video, because this is already at almost 20 minutes. Okay, quickly. So I'm gonna play. These 3 clips are playing right now. The guitar line, so I can solo it by just clicking on it and then go solo. Then I can go to the bass line, solo it. Or I can do the drum rack, solo that. So I'll play them all. So if I just want the guitar, stop those 2 by clicking under them, bring them back in. Cool, so now I have piano selected, go to notes mode. Wrong note? Alright, I'm going to end this now. But you get the point. thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, then subscribe and let me know if you want to learn anything else. I'm going to put some other videos up anyways. And lastly, before I really sign off, I gotta say that the Push 2 is kind of sold as this device where you can like really like intuitively chop up samples, kind of like you're using an MPC or something. But Ableton already makes it so easy and quick to chop up and slice your samples that it's more fun to do it on the Push, but it's faster and easier to just do it in Ableton. So if you're getting the Push to just chop up samples, you should know that it's a really powerful instrument, and Ableton's already super easy to chop up samples anyway. So that's it. Thank you.